for you guys as parents, I mean, Josh, you too, I can tell you guys are close. What do you guys remember about February 13th?
Well, we were sitting here at home having dinner.
Just finishing
My
dinner.
girlfriend sent me a text, and her kids go there too, and did you hear there's a shooter on campus? And no, I hadn't heard it. So started texting and calling Nate and didn't get any response. And then talked to his roommate, and he said he's in Berkey Hall, and his class was in Berkey Hall, and I grabbed my coat and I said, let's go. We started calling the hospitals. They told us they did not have him at the hospital, and his roommate again told us, I have him on IMAP at Sparrow Hospital. So
we just jumped in the car
we
and
flew down the highway, and police cars were flying past us.
Yeah.
And it was just this total sheer panic. We were on the phone with Josh.
Yeah, they didn't want me to drive just because, you know, it'd be risky to drive when emotional and something. We didn't know for sure if Nate had been injured or involved, but him being at the hospital put me in motion too. So I was on the phone with no less than 15 people who were calling me, asking questions, and eventually I decided to drive. And very similarly, I got behind a police officer and drove as fast as the police officer was going to get there. And I remember being told, like, don't come, and I couldn't wait anymore. I had to go see for myself too. So I pulled up to the hospital, I showed my ID to a police officer, and they said, yeah, like, your brother's here. So that's when I knew that something had gone wrong.
You could tell him. Once we got into the hospital,
Yeah.
they still didn't tell us he was there.
We were in a cafeteria waiting, and there was some other parents in there, and we were the last ones to find out what was going on. A group of surgeons are walking down the hallway, and I just looked at Amy and said, this ain't good, you know. So then they came in and shared the information that,
Your son's been shot in the head.
yeah, he's been shot in the head. So we lost it at that point. And then we had to basically make a decision. It's like, do you want to save him or not? You know, do you want us to try and save him? And we're like, we sure do. Yeah.
Yeah, and then after they saved him, came down and told us that he might not have a very good quality of life. They didn't know the damage was very severe, and did we want to continue to keep him alive? And we had to make that decision. And at that point, our other son from Wisconsin, his boss drove him all the way home through the night to get to Sparrow. And so the 5 of us were in a room together, or 4 of us in the room together crying because we didn't know what to do, what decision to make.
Yeah.
And one of the younger neurosurgeons came in and she said, he's young, I want to give him a chance. So we said, we do too.
Yeah.
So we had to make that choice, and then we had to hope for the best, that he would get a quality life, you know, once he recovered from everything. And that weighed heavy on us.
I have no idea what we were in for, you know. Even if you thought you knew, you don't know. You know, it's like, and they tried to prep us with many different surgeons and PAs coming to talk to us, because
Very dismal picture.
yeah, it was not something that they were recommending, put it that way. So we're like, no, but there's no way I could let him go. And we all felt the same way. So
Yeah.
yeah, we're in for the long haul. Yeah.
And then we stayed put, and we never left. Yep, we lived in Sparrow Hospital. All 4 of us stayed there with Nate. He was never alone. And MSU put us in an apartment. We were at the Ronald McDonald houses too. We were there in U of M
Very
too.
thankful
Oh,
for
an amazing
Ronald
place.
McDonald. Jeez,
Amazing place.
can't believe.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that was the furthest thing from our mind where we were going to sleep that night or whatever. We were just all tuned in to Nate. And then you realize it's like you haven't ate the whole day, and that's like, where are you going to go? So we'd sleep in a chair the first couple nights, and a couple of those nurses came in and carried these chairs in for us so we'd have a place to sleep. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was amazing the support they gave us.
Yeah. Yeah. The ICU nurses at Sparrow were just amazing.
Yeah,
Neurosurgeons were amazing. You know,
they saved all those kids that night. Everyone was saved. That was amazing.
That was wounded, yeah.
Yeah.
And then we went through a whole period where his head was swelling and the pressure inside of his brain was so high that he might not have made it through that. But he just kept on going. At one point, spinal fluid started to leak from his head. He had to go in for another surgery. Made it through that, you know.
Just amazing, because you're just going through your everyday life, and then next thing you know, your son's skull cap's going to be cut off, and you're going to his brain is swelling, so they had to leave it off. No, I can't remember how long that was, but
Weeks for sure.
Weeks.
Yeah.
There were so many times they told us like he wasn't supposed to make it to the hospital. Like, you know, if the EMR hadn't gotten there in time, like he wouldn't have made it to the hospital. He wasn't supposed to get off the operating table that first night. It was touch and go the entire time. His brain was swelling. Like there was a certain pressure your brain could get to, and then your brain stem snaps. So he never hit that. So we were saying goodbye almost daily. And then every time he would go into a procedure, we thought he might not come out of that procedure. And I mean, it's incredible what the team, the physicians and the nurses and the techs did at Sparrow. Like, defied every odd and just were incredibly tenacious.
Probably what Nate did.
Yeah, Nate. Yeah, of
Just kept
course.
on fighting.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know, he said he's got 9 lives. He said his brother used up 8 of them. His other brother, not Josh. But he just kept on coming back and coming back and coming back, and we just kept on going with him.
To this day, just keeps going
Yeah.
with a positive mental attitude, man. He just keeps going. Yeah.
Nate, I've heard other people say it, but I've never heard from you. Where exactly were you shot?
In the head.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to point where?
I don't know where it was.
Right above the ear,
Yeah.
over here,
Okay.
And the bullet still remains in his head. Yeah.
and the fragments
It severed his carotid artery right there.
occluded it.
Occluded it.
Yeah.
Occluded his carotid artery, and his other one kicked up production to basically keep him alive. So that was a testament to him being, young, athletic, healthy lifestyle, as healthy as a college kid is in their junior year. So there was an amazing effort his own brain made to keep him alive too, in addition to what the hospital did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, it's all right. Go ahead.
Nate, have you heard, I'm sure you have you heard your family talk before about the doctors asking them
Yeah.
about whether they wanted to take a chance on you living?
Yeah.
What did you think when you heard about that?
I knew they wouldn't say just let him die.
The enormity of that,
Yeah.
for any parent to be asked that,
Yeah.
how would you describe that to another parent?
It just crushed us.
Yeah, exactly. It's
And,
tears you right down.
even afterwards, watching him go through all these struggles, I'm like, did we make the right decision for him? We wanted to keep him alive, obviously, but, would he be happy in the life he's got? And I think you are,
Yeah.
and glad you're here,
Yeah.
right? I mean, I don't speak for you, but...
I'm definitely glad I'm here.
So are we, Nate.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And our whole focus is on
And
getting...
once Ronnie gets here, I'll be happier.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'm going to have to ask you guys for some kind of photos when
Yeah.
Ryan gets here.
Yeah.
Just personally, I want to see. Okay, talk to me, all of you guys. I know I asked you, Nate. Let's talk about the last 2 years, because the experience did not stop for you guys.
No, the surgeries continue. The fear is there constantly.
Yeah.
Is he okay? Is he okay? The decisions we have to make are still there. We have to figure out what to do with his eye yet. He has a shunt in his brain to drain spinal fluid, and we have to decide whether to turn that up or down, with all kinds of consequences and gray areas.
Yeah.
So the decisions are always there. And the worry. It's
And
just...
the surgeries, the surgeries are 10 hours long, 7 hours long. So it's like, it's I don't know.
And then on top of it, now we've been fine, but his insurance plan changed, different carrier, and the carrier now will not cover his therapy going forward, even though the doctors said he needs it, at least until the age of 26, when his brain stops developing, but most likely the rest of his life. And they are giving us 30 visits, and that's it. And we are almost out of our 30 visits. So then it comes out of pocket. And that costs between $100 and $200 an hour, and he needs about 10 hours a week. So, those things are piling up on top of us. And furthermore, both insurance companies that we have sent us letters that they are doing subrogation.
Yeah, subrogation.
They want to be paid back for the expenses that happened with Nate in the hospital. They want that money back. So we have to deal with all that pressure too, and that stress. And so
something that you would never think you'd have to even worry about. You pay for your health insurance, thinking that's why you have it. So they subrogate back to MSU, then MSU basically came back to us and said,
If they were to do anything to help these 5 going forward, the insurance is part of it, and the other students don't have that. I don't know why.
yeah.
We're the
What?
lucky ones.
What insurance do you have?
We had HAP, and now we have Blue
Blue
Cross.
yeah. And HAP is the first one that stepped forward with that. So when we got that, I'm looking at it, I'm like, why are we involved
To the tune
with
of $2
this?
million. And we're like, well, if the medical bills were covered, where did this $2 million come from? So what we understand, we don't know what MSU actually paid. They claim they were paying the medical bills, but our insurance covered most of it that we are aware of. We don't know what they've covered.
You guys haven't. Okay, so you were able, Nate, were you as well able to meet with the other victims recently? Can you guys tell me about when that was or what happened?
Just a few months ago, we all came together just to discuss where everybody was at and what things were. The lawyers were all part of it too, and
I see.
just touch base. And they all wanted to meet each other. You know, they don't know each other in the classroom. The one said he had met Nate previously before all this happened, but Nate doesn't remember. And
And another one said they didn't even know if Nate made it. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
and
we just shut down. I didn't go. People were Facebook friending me, and I just shut down. I went right into his room, and that's all I could do. And it's like I couldn't answer all this. The governor came, the coaches came, everybody wanted to come and see us, and we're like, no, you know, we don't want anything to do with any of this. But now, have we heard from the governor or the coaches or? No. 2 years later, we haven't heard any follow. No one's even asked us, how's Nate doing? You know, except for Carmen, our FBI agent.
yeah, exactly.
She checks in.
Yeah.
But, you know, the university has not reached out to us to say, you know, how's Nate doing? Would he like to come to any of these events? And he doesn't want to, right? But, you know, it'd be nice to at least be considered or, you know, something. So,
I'd imagine that is a terrible feeling to feel like your lives changed forever and the world just forgot.
and then we don't know why they took responsibility for the 3, but not the other 5.
We're all asking that.
You know, why
it's like,
right away? It's been over a year since they settled with those families.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know, I'm not taking anything away from them. I don't want to be, you know, that I'm saying anything negatively about that. I'm just saying these guys, Nate has lifelong care needs that he's going to have, and you know, we're on our own with that.
Exactly.
So I'm not sure why they can take responsibility for those 3, but not the other 5. We don't understand that.
Nate, what was it like for you when you had the opportunity to meet with the other victims?
It was kind of weird because I don't remember the day at all, the night at all, and they all remembered it.
Yeah.
But a couple of them couldn't walk, so I felt pretty horrible. And I was like, I don't remember that night at all, and I'm walking around.
What was it like for the rest of you guys as well to meet with the other siblings, the other parents?
It was good,
It was
wasn't
good,
it?
yeah.
Because we've been so isolated. There wasn't any. They never brought us together. We never. It felt good too. I text with one of the other moms now too
It was
regularly.
pretty open. Everyone
Yeah.
was pretty open, talkative, you know, hearing each other's stories. You know, it was a good thing.
Was it like summertime,
Fall, yeah. it was in
this
the
past fall,
Mhm.
2024?
Yeah. Yep.
School shootings in the United States, you guys know better than anyone, completely out of control.
Yeah.
Having now lived through a school shooting, what is it like for your family to continue to see so many more happening in the news every year?
It's disgusting,
Yeah.
disappointing. I want to see the schools take some responsibility and take more measures to protect the kids.
Nate wrote a paper for one of his classes, and he talked about thoughts and prayers. That's what you hear from everybody when it happens. All the politicians, officials, the school personnel, everybody. You know, our thoughts and prayers, and they're devastated, but they don't do anything. You know, in this case, if there were locks on the doors, the lives would have been saved. You know, the simple measure is a lock on the door.
It's almost become a normalcy because it's once a week, you know, so it's like you see it on the news. And, you know, basically we were doing it too prior to this. It's like you see
You're
it on the news,
devastated, and
and then the next day or two, you're moving on. Everyone's moving on with their life.
Everyone's
And
desensitized.
desensitized, exactly, yeah.
and I keep saying my little mantra is that, you know, we can't control the guns, we can't control the mental health, but we can control the security of the buildings on schools and on campuses. That's the most basic, simplest thing to accomplish, I think, is
Yeah.
secure those buildings. At the very least, he walked right in the building and right in the classroom. No locks or measures anywhere.
Yeah.
We were in Chicago, we were right in the midst of the Northwestern campus, and every building, you could not get in all day long, all night long. You had to have the appropriate key code or whatever they
Yeah.
had there to get in the buildings. It's like, that should be the same everywhere. We can't pretend we didn't know this is a possibility.
Yeah.
It's a possibility everywhere. It just had happened in Oxford a year previously.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a different situation, but still, we know that the shootings are happening, they're continuing to happen, and we have to do the very basic measure of locking the buildings. Do you have any thoughts on that, Josh?
Yeah, it's obviously not very encouraging from like a governmental level that legislation can't be passed around either gun control or mental health intervention, right? Because those are obviously the two big things everyone thinks about when something like this happened. Like what issue did the person have that did the shooting, and why can't we have better control of the guns? So it's discouraging to us as a family and being a part of this, you know, sad club of victims from school shootings where you don't see any change. And I think even the week that the shooting at Michigan State happened, there were 2 or 3 more. So we were in the hospital watching, you know, being a part of our own school shooting, watching 2 other ones go down, right, for different reasons in different states, you know, and feeling for those families and knowing what they're going through. And then I think it's so hard to put the burden on teachers, right? They're already mandatory reporters. They already have to drill students on gun safety, and we've all been a part of active shooter drills ever since I can remember. And that's terrible that we have to do that. So I think where we're looking and where we're hoping to see a change is with the administration. What we know about Michigan State is they've considered locking the doors, especially for the evening classes, like the ones that the victims from Michigan State were a part of. And it didn't seem necessary, didn't want to create an environment of fear around that type of thing. Mild inconvenience, of course, to have to bring your ID to badge into a door. But I think that's probably the place where we can make the quickest change. And it would have saved some lives, certainly at Michigan State, and stopped the injuries that Nate had and the other students that are now injured for life. So it's a hard problem to solve, but there's some things we can do right away, I think.
And people say they don't want to turn the school environment into like a lockdown type of situation, but we would have been a lot happier if those doors had been locked and he hadn't been hurt. I'd rather have my child alive or, you know, not injured, and have the inconvenience of the locks. I feel safer when I'm in an environment that I know has been, you know, like you get on a plane. You feel safer knowing that the passengers have been checked out and there's some security there. You know, it's an inconvenience, but it's worth it. And we just feel like the schools aren't being held responsible. Not the teachers, not the counselors, but the districts themselves, the campuses, they're not being held responsible. They're being told that, you know, they have protection from that and they don't have to be accountable for it. And somebody has to be accountable. That's when they'll make change.
Pardon my ignorance on this, but Nate, would you not have been shot had the door been locked where you were?
Yeah.
Do you know what classroom you were in?
I know it was in Berkey Hall. Don't remember what classroom it was exactly.
114.
Yeah. It seems like something so simple.
Mm-hmm.
For parents who are watching this, I mean, so many parents, most all parents in the United States now, have to be scared about their children going to school.
Oh, you know what's on their mind. It has to be.
What is your message for parents, I mean siblings as well, family members, the fact that in America you have to be scared about going to school, but it is the reality that we live in?
I think it is the reality. We never would have thought it would have happened to us.
Somehow they have to push, we all have to push for change. You know, what it is, no one really knows, but doing nothing's not going to help out. You know, it's like, it locks, simple as it sounds, I don't think it's being done, you know. And there are other things that I've heard of. That's like, there's a customer of mine that he makes taser darts, and basically the drones that they fly basically could be in the school. So like, say a shooter entered, the drone finds it, and then basically, it doesn't have to shoot that person, but it would tell it could lock the building down like right away, let the police department know they're there. It wouldn't be any kind of delay like that. And they're trying to push that. That's out there somewhere, is what I'm being told. And,
Just some kind of measures. They've
yeah.
got to be held accountable.
And he said it's all new, but it's a smaller drone that basically would be facing each door as you would come in. So I'm like, that sounds good to me. Something's better than nothing. And that's like, I'm sure a lot of other parents would be the same way. That, God, you want your kid to go to college and be safe.
I do want to also talk about some of like the happier times in the last 2 years. I know we chatted about some of them off camera, but can you talk to me about some memories in the last 2 years that were fun? I mean, we chatted about Frank Ragnow, if you want to talk about that again. Anything like that you want to share?
Well, like I said, my former coach organized a shooting event with Frank Ragnow up at Bald Mountain shooting range. And so we went to that. That was awesome.
Yeah. And I can see that you have made so much progress in your recovery. You have to be so mentally and physically strong to do what you've done. Is there anything, I know I asked you this, Nate, but all of you guys as a family, when people are learning about your journey, is there anything you want to share about benchmarks moving forward, things that you're working on now? What would you like people to know?
Well, for one, so many people helped us.
Yeah.
Right from guardianship. We're in Chicago, and this gentleman from Lansing, Matt Martin, set up guardianship for us, went to court for us, took all that on, took that off our plate. Then we had the mom that I said from MSU that got all the food cards for us and fed us for the entire time we were in the hospital through DoorDash. Common Ground donated Nate a service dog, stepped in, and he's getting a service dog. You want to tell her about your dog?
Yeah, well, I don't have her yet, but there's a service dog being kind of donated. Well, it's being paid for by a non-profit group.
And then we had family. They came in and put ramps in.
Yeah.
They
Changed our bathroom.
put his bathroom to a roll-in.
Before we got home, it was all done.
They took care of our house, our yard, our mail. So many people helped us. We had the Ronald McDonald houses. Alan Shaw from MSU was checking on us regularly in the beginning. Put us in an apartment at MSU so we could have a place to sleep at night when we were taking shifts. Who else? I mean, gosh. The surgeons.
I think you covered
There's
all.
just not, there's so many people to thank. Oh, the adaptive ski program. Nate's passion was racing, skiing in high school. And he's able to ski through these volunteers at Mount Brighton.
Nate's friends coming to see him. I mean,
Every hospital
every
they came.
hospital, even in Chicago, those kids were traveling to see Nate. It's like, that was amazing. It's like,
That's cool.
can't tell you how that brings the spirits up. I mean, he could not wait till they came in the door.
Your therapist.
Yeah, my therapist.
Amazing people at Rehab Without Walls. They were amazing people. Not
You
just
don't
good
know
at their
where-
job, good people.
Don't know where we'd be without him. It's like,
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I wanted to, because you had asked the journey over the last 2 years. I wanted to try and take a crack at that, just to, to cover that. There, again, you got the picture. There's a lot of people that helped. I think from February 13th of 2023, it was 6 months in 4 different hospital facilities. It was touch and go for about a month and a half, I want to say. He was in coma for how long?
But we don't even know when he came out.
Yeah, it was. They have the scale for coma, so he was in a coma for weeks, if not months. And then from there, we had to come home and start therapy at home too. So there was a lot of progress. I mean, when we got home, Nate couldn't walk under his own power. He couldn't stand under his own power.
Couldn't eat. He had pureed diet.
Yep, eating completely pureed food, and then with therapy, right, which was being covered by the insurance at the time, we got a lot of that back. He's walking around now. He has a lot more mobility. He can speak clearly. He can eat solid foods. He can support himself in a lot of ways. But I would not say completely independent by any means, right? My parents have to be with him around the clock. And then I think during the hospital, we all put everything on pause too. Like my brother left his job in Wisconsin to be there and was working remotely. I stopped working my job for a lot of time, and to be there in the hospital. My dad was doing sales calls from the bathroom of the rehab. We had put everything on pause.
Just tell me where you are. I would have bought it.
Yep. So everybody in our family put everything on pause, and then they just went through the mountain of people that supported us the whole way through, whether it was the GoFundMe or even just the kind words, the thoughts, the prayers, like
Cards. And
yep.
Yeah.
Meals sent to more meals than we could possibly eat. So just an outpouring of support from people we knew, and then perfect strangers.
The alumni,
too, so.
Spartan alumni were
Yep.
amazing. Mm-hmm.
The alumni network, yep. And I think that what we want to make sure people know is that we're still working on it, right? It's been 2 years since this has happened, and we're still making progress. And he continues to be strong and continue to improve, and that's why we want to find some sort of way to work with MSU on this, because there's so much more to gain back, from what was taken from him. So.
Yeah. You guys are in a unique place because what you think and what you have to say holds so much power to people. I know we talked about how you really think that these schools need to start putting more locks into place and taking more measures as far as school safety. What is your message to, parents like America? What do you really want your message to be, and for people to take away from hearing a sliver of your story?
I don't know.
What do you think?
It has to stop. We keep saying thoughts and prayers. And Columbine was what, in 1989? And we're still doing this.
somehow we have to all come together and change it. And you'll hear people, and we are too. We don't know the exact fix of a change, but to do nothing.
Yeah.
Just when you see that on TV, and it's just like it's still going on.
It's going to continue to go on.
Yeah.
You wait for the next one. And there were 2 recently in Nashville. I think they had about 4 hours in the media, and then it was gone and forgotten.
We can spend money in other countries to help them. It's like, why can't we spend money to help ourselves? It's like, how did we get this far? I always wonder that. It's like, what changed in our world that we found ourselves in this predicament? Every week we're hearing some other child being shot.
And almost exclusively in America. It does happen in other countries, but not to the extent it happens here. And why? And what are we going to do about it? The protesting and the gun rights and all that's not going to solve the problem. It hasn't in all these years. And something else has to be done. And I don't know what, but I think until you start holding people accountable where it's costing people money, they're not going to make a change. It's going to continue. And I do not wish this on anyone. This is devastating, And I'm so sorry for the 3 that lost theirs, because we're so grateful that we still have Nate here, and we realize that, how lucky we are that he's still here. But boy, does he have a long, hard road ahead of him. And it changed all our lives. Mm-hmm. All of the things our goals, the things we were doing, it's completely changed everything.
The worry that you have is just unbelievable. It's like, I always think, what happens if we're not around tomorrow?
That's our biggest fear.
What's Nate gonna do? And we
Who's gonna help
he
Nate?
has 2 brothers that they'll do anything for Nate, but it's like,
that's a lot for them to.
I want it set up so Nate can take care of himself, And they've asked us that. Sparrow Hospital comes in one day and they're like, "What do you want for Nate?" We want him to have a normal life, just like the rest of us.
Everything
it's like,
back.
Yeah. Well, we don't know if we can get that. Well, we'll take as much as we can get. That's what we want.
But the message is, it has to stop. We have to do something, and not just thoughts and prayers anymore. We have to do something. I don't want any family to go through this.
I think we have the power to do something too. Like, that's the message that I want to get out. Just because we're desensitized to this because it happens so frequently doesn't mean that we shouldn't do something. We shouldn't continue to talk about this and get it on the legislative floor, right? Because there is absolutely a playbook to reducing these at the very least, right? Like, other countries react to school shootings in a much more proactive way. And that makes a really big impact, right? And there are people who are far smarter and far more knowledgeable about this than we are, right? We're victims of it. But listening to those people and getting their ideas implemented, I think, has to be more paramount than it's been, ever since Columbine and the dozens or hundreds that have happened since,
Do you guys feel that the average person forgets about a school shooting pretty quick?
Yeah.
Until it hits close to home
We do.
again?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we do. I think that's a fact, yeah.
I think about those students that were at Oxford and MSU.
Yeah.
What a thing to live with, To know that it's always possible. It's always out there, and we have to stop it.
It rolls off. I mean, at Central Michigan, we had a
Yeah.
domestic incident that we thought was an active school shooter, and I think I had forgotten about it by that summer, and it happened at spring break, and it was at my own university, right? And so we all had that fear for 24 to 48 hours that we were the next campus to have a school shooter, and it just rolls off, right? As soon as it, and it's really unfortunate that it just happens so frequently you don't think about it.
Yeah.
We don't want people to live in constant fear. We want everyone to go to school and go to college and live their lives, but I feel like we have to do something to protect them when they're in these buildings and on these campuses, at the very least. So.
At the very beginning, you guys shared how doctors came to you and gave you that impossible question about if you wanted to take a risk with all these surgeries for Nate to continue to live. And you guys shared about how, Nate, you have just overcome every single obstacle again and again for 2 years of your life now.
Yeah.
How do you feel about your future? What are you excited or motivated by?
The idea to get my left arm back. And my independence.
Independence is a big one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you want to do with that left arm?
I want to go skiing.
Tell her.
I want to go skiing. I want to shoot skeet. I want to play pool again.
He wants to drive a car.
Yeah.
That's our next step. We're going to get a golf cart to start with. We'll see how that works out.
That's a debated subject, actually.
Space for it.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, it's okay if the answer to this is no. I'm just curious. I don't know if you've thought about this, Nate. Is there anything that you've ever thought that you wanted to do in the future regarding being an advocate when it comes to school shootings, or maybe you want to focus on animals? What is it that you want to focus on?
Focus on animals.
Yeah.
He's been asked by a couple of the doctors if he'd be willing to speak, and you always say yes, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's don't have much to say on it.
I think a big part of it for him is he lost so much memory around that time, right? So even when he was meeting with the students that were also critically injured, they all had memories of the event, and he sort of, it feels weird to say, it's left out of that. But we think it's a good thing that you don't remember, which I don't know if you'd agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's obviously very traumatic, and for the students who were in the room or around the room, they have a lot of mental trauma that Nate gratefully doesn't have because he doesn't have the memory, but you've got the physical injury to make up for it.
Yeah.
And the trauma of losing the life he was planning.
Yeah.
He was heading up for an internship at Mackinac Island, and he wanted to go out to Colorado and work in the environment, and he's got to change those plans. So. Do the best we can to get the closest to him, right?
Yep.
What is the last thing that you remember? Is it a week before, a couple of days before, months before?
Probably months before.
Months before?
Yeah.
For those who watch this, I know that, oh my gosh, I can't even think of how many people are impressed by you and what you've overcome in your story. What's your message for them? What would you specifically like their takeaway to be?
I don't have one really.
What about PMA, Nate?
Our motto is PMA, or positive mental attitude. So, crying and complaining doesn't help anything or anyone.
What about Josh's
Oh,
quote?
Either Josh has a saying, the most important step is the next one.